Guys, welcome back to the series. We're up to Silver 5, and just as we did in Bronze 5, we're going to spend this video looking at nonsense that other people do to you that you need to learn how to counter. What we're really emphasizing here is that a core skill in Street Fighter is noticing what your opponents are doing and adapting. Now, some of that is noticing cheap methods that they try to beat you with, but a lot of it is just noticing kind of tendencies that people have. Some people wake up with an OD uppercut 50% of the time. And if you notice that, you can just block and punish them so hard for that. Other people just never put pressure on you when you're waking up, right? And then you can just wake up for free and you don't have to worry about it. There's some patterns like that that are worth paying attention to. Try to have a little bit of cognitive bandwidth left over to notice that sort of stuff. And I think a pretty good habit is just when you get to grade 5 in bronze, silver, gold, etc., really focus in that grade, not on what you're doing, but just on trying to notice what your opponent's doing. That's the intention you want to set each session. So let's start going through some characters, and we're going to start with JP and his OD amnesia, which is very similar to like other OD reversals in the sense that he's going to use it on wake up. It does convert into pretty big damage and it knocks you full screen, which is really irritating, and it also just changes the tempo of the match. It's not as powerful as it was in Season 1. They really nerfed the damage quite hard, and I'm guessing that down in Silver, people don't have the full combo conversions for it anyway, but it's probably still super annoying, and there are pretty easy ways to almost completely shut it down with Ryu. So let's have a look. So we've got to go into, we use JP's wake up reversal, and we're going to put him to do OD amnesia, and let's look at how that works out. Yeah. So if we punch him there, we're going to have a bad time because he's plus after the OD amnesia blocks. And that means that most JPs will throw out a button at you at that point. Like very few JPs are going to block in that situation. So oftentimes what I like to do, just every now and then, just to make him think about it, is this. Oops, sorry. I didn't get that right. I got the timing wrong. Just let him know, right? You get hit, and they actually wake up in time that good JPs will be able to juggle you there at the very end. But it doesn't matter. It's just to give them some punch in the mouth. It kind of resets the situation. They're not able to get on top of you and start causing a lot of pressure, and it's kind of destabilizing to them. And they start to worry about it, right? They start to worry that you are going to uppercut, and they start to block afterwards when they've got pressure, and that opens up this option, just parrying, right? And it's worth practicing the timing on that so you don't hold parry like I did for an eternity. Yeah, they're just doing that, right? And that way you don't even take much drive gauge damage, and if JP's swinging at you, then you're just going to parry his block, his moves as well. So that's really good. But what you really want to do, and what I should have included in the Oki video, is to do the fireball Oki. This only works in the corner. I believe it only works off medium Tatsu, but it's super powerful. So when you finish a medium Tatsu, just throw out a light fireball. Let's have a look. All right, see how it got punish counter? His OD amnesia didn't even come out. Oh, so it turns out, so OD amnesia is invulnerable to throws and strikes, but it is not invulnerable to fireballs. And so if you do that light fireball and JP wakes up into it, he just takes the hit. And look how plus you are. Right, plus 11. So, right, there was medium fireball, so I did it wrong. Right, I get a 2-hit combo with heavy punch. Oh my god. All right, so that's really powerful against JP. And it's also powerful against any character that doesn't have an invincible reversal of the uppercut variety, and so is really relying on level 1 super as their invincible reversal. So let's have a look at some examples of that. So Bison, for example. If we put Bison on reversal settings, wake up, reversal, knee press, nightmare, that's his level 1. Bonk. No dice, Bison, and you're plus 13. All right, so that is pretty tasty. But you got to be quick with that heavy punch, right? So because I suck, I usually just go for the medium punch because it's so reliable. But I think it's better off to just practice the timing on this. Now, the next thing you have to practice then is to not just have him wake up knee press nightmare, but to also wake up blocking in some cases. So what if he wakes up? If he wakes up crouching light punch, let's have a look at what's going to happen there. Right, there we're plus 11, so we can still get that heavy punch off if our timing's right. Right, and I think if you use the crouching heavy punch, that's plus 9. That's only 9 frames instead of 10, so you've got a little bit more of a window there. Right, and then, but what if he wakes up jumping? So in this case, he's going to get hit. Right, but we're only plus 8. And I think that's why I don't really bother kind of trying to think about whether I can get this out or not. I just always go for the medium punch because that's still pretty good. Medium punch is going to be plus 7. You can go into this, so you can do... Yeah, but that's too far away. So I remember from my matches that I usually just go straight into that and just repeat the cycle. And what is it on block? So let's have a look at that. So if we put him on normal just to walk backwards for a few frames. So you're plus 3 on block. So if you follow up with the medium punch, you're just always in a good situation. So who else does that apply to? Let's have a bit of a look at our options. So it definitely applies to Lily. Lily's OD uppercut is only throw invincible. It is not strike invincible. So you should generally be striking Lily on wake up, not throwing her. Also because at a very high level, her spinning pile driver is throw invincible if someone does what's called a jump cancel, but that's like super advanced. But yeah, anyway, so Lily is not going to be using the OD uppercut very often. She's going to be using drive reversal, which you can block in time after the fireball, and she's also going to be using her level 1 super, which your fireball will beat. And the other person is Ed. Ed does have a reversal uppercut, but I find that people often wake up level 1, particularly when they're in burnout. So in burnout, this becomes relevant against so many people. And when I'm in the corner and my opponent's burnt out, I often just do this medium tatsu fireball pattern just constantly and just abuse them with it. Because if they block and you're plus 3, your strike throw invincible again, and you've just got them in the constant mix, and they're going to have a real bad time. All right, let's have a look at our next character. Let's talk about Aki for a bit. I don't know if people will be doing this down in Silver, but it is pretty fundamental to Aki's whole game plan, so maybe they will. Aki has mid-screen safe jumps. So what I mean by that is that if we put Ryu to wake up using OD Shoryuken, and then I just do my most simple knockdown. There you go. So she's got mid-screen safe jumps. Now, one thing that's curious about her mid-screen safe jump, let me just save the current state, is that what sort of jumping attack she does really depends on how Ryu recovers. So there I had him recovering backwards, and there I have to do this one, right? The heavy punch to get him. But if he recovers in place, then I have to do this one, the cross up, right? And if I am confused and I press the wrong one, then it's very easy for me to miss Ryu. So here I will hit him with that, but I will jump over his head with this. And equally, if I'm jumping from in close and I do this one by accident, then it's going to stuff up. So one thing that's useful when playing against Aki, if you see them doing these safe jumps, is to vary your wake up, right? That's quite important. The next thing that's really important with Aki, and I'll come back to the safe jumps in a moment, is that Aki can only really deal damage to you when you're poisoned. I think I said this in the previous video as well, but if you got the poison on you, just take the throw, all right? Take the throw. The most she can do to you is what we got here, is like 1,000 damage, right? If she does big damage on you, 1,200, right? 1,200 is quite a lot of damage, though, don't get me wrong, but all her throws send you really far away, and then she's got to drive rush in to try to maintain the pressure, and then it's kind of harder for her to press you. But in any case, like her kind of basic combos when you have poison on you do like 3,500 damage. So you can take 3 throws, before it's worth getting hit by one of those combos. So unless you are like really, really certain that she's going to throw you, it's much better to just take the throw, right? Don't bother delay teching and getting shimmied, right? Like low level players won't shimmy you, but high level players will. And they're always looking to combo you, right? So they want to open you up somehow. They want to hit you with this kind of thing. So just stand your ground, walk away from her, get into pressure. But in any case, like just make her think about it, right? If she wants to throw you, go ahead. She can throw you, right? And then you're going to back rise and run away. Yeah, and that's basically your situation. All right, so take the throw. Don't let her hit you when you're poisoned. Once the poison wears off, then you can play aggressively again because Aki just really doesn't do that much damage otherwise. Like she's getting like 2,500 off a big jump in, and her neutral ground game sucks, right? And so she's always going to want to be hitting you with fireballs. I can't remember what a fireball is. Yeah, quarter circle back. And fireball again, you can get hit by it. It's only 500, 600 damage, something like that with the poison. And then once she's fireballing, you can get big jump-ins on her, right? And the low-level players aren't going to be so good at fireballing that you won't find an opportunity to get on her. All right, let's go back to that safe jump and what to do against it. And for that, I need to get back to playing as Ryu and have my opponent as Aki. Alright, so I've recorded exactly that sequence that we did before. And we're just going to have Aki do that to me. There's her safe jump, right? And there I just woke up in place. Oh. I have to reset. Save current state. Alright, if I wake up in place, you'll see that Aki will just jump over my head. Whoop, she just jumped over my head, right? Whereas if I back rise, then she's going to hit me with the safe jump. But you should still be back rising a lot of the time, right? Especially if people aren't safe jumping on you all the time. But if you see someone safe jumping on you all the time, then make sure you mix it up. Sometimes quick rise, sometimes back rise. They've probably practiced whether they should do which jumping attack, but it's still worth making them think about it, right? What you should really be trying to do is perfect parry. Right, so we've got to back roll so that she hits us. Right, and then we've got to press that perfect parry so late. Oof, I was still too early. I felt like that was so late. Oh, again. Wow, really? You wouldn't believe how late this is. Wow, still? Alright. There we go. Right, now notice that even with the jab, I didn't get a punish counter on her, so she actually recovers from the throw, even though I've perfect parried in time to not get punish countered, so be able to block. So usually you just want to throw Aki, but sometimes you might see her tech the throw. The other thing that will happen is if they see you constantly parrying as they're jumping in, then they'll start to empty jump and throw you, right? But in any case, you've got to make them think about it. They think this is free for them, that they're just going to jump in safe on you every time and continue their pressure. If you can represent that you are occasionally going to perfect parry them, and Jamie does this a lot in the corner as well, and Ryu will be doing this a lot in the corner as well. If you can represent that you know what they're trying to do and that you've got the perfect parry there, and just make them think about it, make them do some other stuff, that's going to make things more complex for your opponent, and it gets in their head and it makes the game a bit more alive. All right, let's move on to Ed, because he has a very similar dynamic. All right, here we are with Ed. Now, Ed is the lord of the neutral skip, and he does that with this move. Well, if he hits you with it, you get launched, and if you block, he's +4. All right, so you're straight into a strike throw mitsa in Ed's face. Right now, again, Ed players are going to think they've got all the options here. They're like, ha ha ha, I've got you in the mind game. Are you going to block? Are you going to tech? I'm going to throw you. So in low level, you can just throw tech, right? And one thing to do as well is just to mash throw. This actually works pretty well, because if the Ed's trying to shimmy you, then they won't get away with it. But that's probably a bit more high level. All I want to tell you guys to do is that every now and then, again, like every 4 times this happens or something, bust out the OD DP. And that way, this mind game where they think they've got you in the mind game, suddenly they are also in a mind game. It's like Rorschach in The Watchmen, where he says to the other people in jail, he said, I'm not stuck in here with you, you're stuck in here with me. And you want to make sure your opponent feels that way as well. They're like, I'll throw out my little flickers, but actually occasionally you're going to OD them. And now they'll think, I can't just strike throw this guy. Sometimes I got to block, sometimes I got to shimmy. And then you get out of it for free. And even if you don't throw the DP, they're still walking away and just leaving that pressure on the table. So that's quite useful. The other thing you can do is parry. And you see that the parry, it drags you in less. All right? And that way you're not in the strike throw mix up. Right, the problem with this is that Ed can get out of this in various ways. Like he can dash up to you, he can cancel this without throwing it out and just throw you, and you're parrying, so you're going to eat that throw. But again, it's something that you just want to do occasionally because it forces the Ed to have a more complex game plan. The Ed's also got to think about it. Anytime you're making your opponent think a bit more about stuff, that's useful with these kind of brainless pressure strings. All right, next character. All right, we are up to Zangief. And what I want to talk about is this move right here, which, like most command grabs, you should jump. You can backdash it. Alright, that works too. But I think generally as a reaction, you want to train your brain to just immediately hit jump, right? Because jump beats it and it gives you a huge jump in because it has so much recovery afterwards. And he'll probably stop right in front of you when you do the jump in. Okay, but this is too easy, so let's add some other things. So I have one with him doing EX tackle and one with him doing his regular tackle. Note that they are both fireball invincible. So players will try to throw this out at you, but OD fireball beats it. So you want to be using OD fireball more against Zangief in the lower rounds. But his EX tackle has 2 pieces of armor, so he'll get through the fireballs with that. Then we also want to have him, of course, just moving around. All right, sometimes moving forwards at the end, sometimes moving backwards. Good Geef players will walk like this. They'll walk you down very, very slowly. They'll be blocking all day. All right, and then, of course, we also want to have him jumping in. Dun, 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 dun. What you gonna do, Geef? Huh? What you gonna do? He's going to walk me to the corner. He's already done it. What? Oh, sorry. So I've got these walks on 2 selection frames, so they don't happen. So they happen quite often. Oh, we wanted to have medium kick. So it's like when we fake our fireball with jab, this is like him faking tackle. So we've got something to react to. And then I also have him jumping, right? Because we always want to have the jump in there so that our DPs are always just on reaction. And now we just want to turn all of those on and then not jump when he jumps. When he jumps, we want to hit him with the DP, but when he comes in for the tackle, we want to jump. Now, EX tackle is easier because it has the flash. So I mostly look for the jump in, to be honest, and then react to the flash or react to the tackle because I find that easier. Now, obviously in real matches, what usually happens is that Geef will be jabbing you or something and then he'll go into that move. So try and do a drill for that as well, but I think at the most basic level, just this one. And that'll give you reactions to it that'll work even when they're doing it in different situations. You'll just react to him throwing his arms up by pressing jump. Alright, the next character we've got up is Manon. Very similar gameplay to Zangief in the sense that she's trying to get into you and throw you, right? She doesn't have kind of dashing throws the way Geef does. She has these very unsafe other moves instead. What I want to talk about with Manon is more like your game plan against grapplers. So particularly against Manon and Geef. So Lily is a bit different, but against Manon and Geef, you can't just be a zoner, right? You are not Guile. So you do want to be mostly in a passive defensive mode. They have to get in to do anything to you, right? So mostly you do want to be throwing fireballs. You do want to be maintaining your fireball trap. You also want to be using the donkey kick occasionally, especially when they're in very close. Like this sequence works quite well. Donkey kick has much more range than people think it does, and if they're just moving forward a tiny bit, then the end of the move will catch them. Just make sure you're only ever using medium donkey kick, and very occasionally you might use the heavy, but the heavy's from very far away and people can jump in on it pretty easily. So it's mostly medium donkey kick, which is a full 9 frames more than that. So medium donkey kick is 18 frames and heavy donkey kick is 29 frames. So that's just like a bit too slow. Light donkey is only 14 frames, but it's really, really massively negative on block. Whereas medium donkey kick is -8. So Manon can't actually punish you if you space it well. So you want to be doing those. You want to be fireballing her and donkey kicking her occasionally. And you also just want to be doing raw sweep. And the reason why you do raw sweep every now and then is so that Manon can't walk like this at you. That she occasionally has to walk and crouch block. Right? And just increase the frustration levels for her. Because when you sweep her, you also get free Oki. And you can hopefully push her further back along the screen. But we can't just be passive like this. We also have to be proactive. And the main way that we are proactive against Manon, so occasionally we'll jump at her, but that's not really it. Mostly we want to drive rush at her occasionally. Right, and usually crouch medium punch is the way to go because it's very plus on block. We'll talk more about this so-called like raw drive rush when we get to gold, but this is the only one you need right now against the grapplers. Right, just drive in and do that. And that means because you're +4 in their face, you're in a strike throw situation. So you can do this sort of thing. Right, that 3-part medium combo works. And then you can also just do throw. Right. Sometimes you just want to drive rush at them raw and throw. Right. In any case, don't be afraid to play in this zone against the zoners. They don't like it in here. They think they can almost throw you, but they actually can't. And what they're really doing is just getting into your donkey kick range, right? Don't walk away from them and try to get this drive rush going. So when I practice this against Manon, I just record her doing 4 things. I record her walking around, jumping, and doing drive impact. And then we just do this. That was the worst timing for my fireball. Right. And then just practice that sort of thing, just occasionally throwing out the fireball. Oh, I was so... The reason why it's good to practice anti-airs against Manon is because her legs are super long and they have this really deep downward arc. So you actually don't have a lot of time to get your dragon punch out against Manon. You've got to be pretty on point with it. And equally her DI has a very short range, but is quite fast, so you've got to be on point with it. And Manon players use drive impact more than any other character. Alright, so just be practicing that, and occasionally going in with the drive rush. Alright, next character. Alright, speaking of parrying, let's talk about Guile. So generally speaking, against Guile's Sonic Booms, you want to parry instead of block. That's partially because then you take less drive gauge damage. Let's have a look at that. So I've just got Guile set to throw booms at me. Alright, so look at how much drive gauge damage I take there. It's a fair bit. If you parry accurately, then you don't take as much. But the main reason why you parry is because there's less blowback. So if we block, we get pushed back quite far. You don't get pushed back as far if you parry. Later on, when you get more advanced, parry also opens up a bunch of stuff with perfect parries. But we don't really need to worry about that down at this grade. Like if you perfect parry Guile's booms right in front of his face, then you can get a heavy sweep out, but it's really hard. So I wouldn't really bother with it here. That's a classic case of stuff that masters put on YouTube that's really useful at master rank, but just not something you need to bother with down low. So just get in the habit of parrying Guile's booms. Just record him doing 1,000 booms at you of different speeds. So sometimes light, sometimes medium, sometimes heavy, sometimes OD, and try to get pretty well timed parries. So don't be holding your parry like that. Just be trying to actually parry it as it comes through, and occasionally jumping on him when you get close. The guy recovers so fast that you can't really do this on reaction. Alright, next character. Next up is Chun Li, and she's someone where we have to practice or introduce the fuzzy guard, which is basically a situation where we're sort of guarding one way, and then at the last second when we notice that they're doing something different, we change direction. And Chun Li is the easiest one to practice this on because she has this very irritating move. Right, the flip over. The flip over is +3 on block. So she's still plus and she's got strike throw. So ideally you want to jump back and punch it. But I don't usually have the reactions for that. I'm just happy to be able to block it. Right, and then you just back in the pressure string and that's fine. So just recognize that she's doing it first. And recognize to change direction on your jab. If she jumps fully over you and misses, then she's actually got to recover for a bit, so you can potentially punish her, but the main thing is just to make sure that we're blocking in the right direction. Alright, then once you've got that, change it up and add this sequence in. Jab, jab, lightning kicks. See, lightning kicks is -3, so you want to check Chun, and you also occasionally want to throw her, right, if she's really close to you. I mean, players should hopefully not be doing this sequence, and the other lightning kicks are -8. So I just like to get in the habit of doing this sequence, and then if it's one of the weaker lightning kicks and it's -8, then that will combo. And if it's not, if it's heavy, then I still check her. And if I think that she's often doing heavy lightning kicks, then occasionally I will throw, and throw will also work against the -8 lightning kicks. So you've got that in, now put them both on. Right, and the reason why you'll get hit occasionally is because you're used to blocking backwards against the lightning kicks. Oops. If you let go of the block too soon, then you'll get hit by the lightning kicks. Right? So you just want to make sure that you're switching your block. And then finally, you can add in a scenario where Chun does lightning kicks and then tries to jab you, right? And that'll help you practice actually converting that counter hit if you do get it. Right, so I'm just too slow here in all these cases. Right, so once you've got all three of these on, then you can practice Chun coming in on you like that. Sometimes she's just going to block you out. Sometimes you want to try and throw her. And make sure you're still getting the block on that move when she hits you with it. Okay, let's move on to some harder fuzzy guards. Alright, now we are talking about Ken, and Ken also has a very important fuzzy guard off his Jinrai kicks. So let's have a look at that. So we want to turn on, we want to record first Jinrai kick low, and we're using medium Jinrai kick. Okay, let's have a look. Alright, that's the low Jinrai. It's -5, so sometimes you will be able to punish it, but often you'll be too far away, yeah? Which is not good. But if you're close enough, you can punish it. And note that he says dia. Dia. Who? Dia. That's very different to Jinrai. So after Jinrai, it comes out faster, but it's still -5. Right. The reason why it's worth looking at the difference is because on medium Jinrai, you can always interrupt with a dragon punch. Right, that will always get through. Against the heavy kick, that's true if they do the follow-up, but if they don't do the follow-up, they can actually block in time because it's only -2. Alright, so if your opponent's just really bullying you with medium Jinrai all the time, then every now and then you want to bust through it with the OD, the same way that we do against Ed's flicker, the same way that we do against Ken's Dragon Lash. Every now and then just let them know that it's not just them having a plus frame field day. Occasionally you're going to jump in there with your OD, just so they have to respect it, and you're in their head a little bit. They think, oh, maybe I should block, and then they don't continue their pressure. But what we mostly want to work on is just that medium Jinrai kick and the low and the overhead. So let's have a look at that. So I'm blocking low, and then I'm trying to stand up if Ken does the big one. Alright, this is called fuzzy guarding. So I'm blocking low, and I'm looking for the change in his body and trying to get standing up in time. Right? Oof, I nearly had it there. Right. Now most of the time Kens are going to be going for the low because it's so much faster. But the high is -3, so if he does get it off, then he's safe. Right? So this is something to practice, really important fuzzy guard, and it's worthwhile also having him do it off the heavies, just so you can hear the difference, especially if you want to practice occasionally blowing through it with an OD. Alright, on to DJ, who also has a fuzzy guard. Alright, we are here with DJ, who also has a high-low mix-up of his sway. So you'll see a lot of players doing this one. Let's have a look. Oh, that's the overhead. And the overhead is also plus on block, +1. But he's very far away from you usually, so it doesn't really matter that he's plus. Just remember it's not quite your turn. So just keep blocking, get away from him, because he can easily throw you after that. And then of course that's the high, but he also has the low. And the low he's minus, but not so minus that you can punish him. Where you need to punish the sway is with drive impact after he goes back. So you actually have a lot of time for it. If you see him sway, you can press it quite late. So it's worth practicing having just one of these on and then also having him do the empty sway occasionally. Right, and then if you can build it into your muscle memory to react to him pressing a button. See, I'm always getting the punish counter there, like it's not too hard. Alright, but there I obviously pressed it too early. Alright, so you do have to practice it. And don't get too greedy, right? But if someone's just constantly swaying at you and pressing buttons, know that you can drive impact through it. The other thing that people will do occasionally is this. But note that that's -6, right? Now usually it'll be spaced a bit better than this, but you can often catch it with the light kick, especially at the low levels, alright? So I think the main thing to practice is just to get the overhead and low sway going. And just learn to block low, because that's much faster, the low hit. And when he goes for the high, you just stand up. And then that way, this is not really going to cause you problems. Right, just be practicing that a bit. If you want to get fancy, then you can work the DI in occasionally. Alright, so that covers DJ. Okay, let's talk about Ryu. Ryu might be doing some plus frame stuff to you, some frame trap, space trap stuff to you in silver. We're going to talk about it in gold. It is something that you want to integrate into your game. But players might be doing it to you down at this lower level, and so it's worth knowing about it. So the main thing is that Ryu's heavy hashogeki is +2 on block. So it's still his turn, right? And so if you're not doing something about that and players notice that, they'll just keep doing heavy hashogeki into pressure string, right? So what you want to do about it is the DI, okay? So if someone's doing hashogeki, then you want to DI that. Right? There's nothing they can do to stop you. Similarly, if they're doing solar plexus, because this is a good frame trap. But again, you can DI through it. I've got the dummy set to DI on a 5-frame delay after 3 blocks, right? Because usually what you're going to do is pressure string and then this move. And players will often check to see whether you do something before they throw out their DI. And as soon as they see you loading up the hashogeki, they'll press DI and beat you. So what do you want to be doing there? Well, you want to be doing light hashogeki. Right? Now the problem with light hashogeki is that in that situation where the opponent's waiting, it's going to essentially be a true block string, and then you're just going to end up -3, right? If I put him to not delay for 5 frames and just do it instantly, let's see what happens. I can actually get the hashogeki out in time. And speaking of other nonsense that you can DI through, we have Luke's charged heavy knuckle. So usually heavy knuckle is -4 or -3, so it's safe, but it's very susceptible to drive impact. So if he's just throwing this out at random, like whatever, you just block it, do a little light kick to check him. Usually though, what they'll do is charged heavy knuckle. Right, like that. It doesn't take long to charge it up, and then he's +4. Now in the mid screen, that's not so scary because he's so far away from you. But when he's got you in the corner, this is quite devastating. And Luke's will often do the following 2 sequences. Right, and that's exactly what you need to do, is just DI it, right? So you need to be watching to see if he goes into the knuckle afterwards, rather than just backing off. Right, and then once you see him charge the knuckle, just immediately hit the DI, be ready for it. The other thing that they'll do is this. Right, and that's also very susceptible to DI. Alright, let's talk about some slightly more advanced Lily stuff. So what Lilies are going to do a lot, once they have a wind-clad stock, is this pressure string. Right, because they're so far away from you after the jabs, if you press any button here, you're going to be in trouble. Right, so you can put the kick out. And I think you can do that even mid-screen. No, so you get beaten mid-screen because your kick doesn't reach them because of the pushback. So in the corner that works. Oh no, it does work. Just got to be quick with it. Alright, the other thing you can do is just DI them. Alright, now the reason why you want to be a bit cautious about that DI is because a lot of the time Lilies will do this. And that will still work, but only if you get it on the crouch heavy punch. If you wait until you see them doing the wind gather in order to DI, then if they're just doing wind dance, they'll recover in time to DI you back. Also, if you do it as soon as you see the crouch heavy punch usually hits into the DI twice. So better players, not in silver. So in silver, this is pretty safe. Just bully Lily. I think this is why you don't see Lilies get to higher level, because at low levels, players just try to do this autopilot dumb shit. And they're like, oh, it's so easy to DI Lily. The better players have much better reactions and much more flow charting. So the better players will do crouch heavy punch with Lily and they'll wait to see what you do. If they see that you've DI'd, they'll just cancel the crouch heavy punch into their own DI. So at that point, you have to wait until after the crouch heavy punch to see whether she goes into the wind gather motion. And then if you think it's wind gather, then you take the risk and go for the DI. But sometimes the better players will have just gone into wind dance and they'll be able to beat you. Now, this is a steady progression. I think down here at silver, no one's even going to be able to react to the crouch heavy punch DI. So if you see someone using crouch heavy punch a lot, just DI into them all the time. Especially if you see someone always doing that crouch heavy punch into wind gather sequence, then let them know. Like occasionally, you don't have to do it every time, just occasionally throw the DI in there. One DI can totally swing a match, right? Because it just gives you so much momentum, takes damage off them, takes gauge off them, gives you Oki off your drive rushes, whatever. So you don't need to do it all the time. Just let them know that they can't autopilot their offense into you. And then as you get into the higher grades and you start to notice Lilies being more sophisticated about their strategies here, then you're going to need to do something different. And the main one I recommend is just using the medium kick a lot. So after they've done that initial light pressure string, this one, just put the kick out there and that'll stop them from doing most of the shenanigans, right? All right, next character. All right, we're talking about Jamie, and what I want to talk about with Jamie soon is the Wreckers, this button here. But I don't think anyone in the low grades is going to be doing this properly, so it needs to be spaced well. That's kind of the key. If you're there, it's -6, and then Ryu's light kick is not quite going to be able to reach, and you really got to worry about spacing. But often people are just going to do it too close to you there, and you can punish it with your light kick tatsu. So that's worth practicing. But I'll talk more in gold about how to punish it or how to play against it when your opponents are sophisticated. What I want to talk about down here is Jamie's sweep. So what a lot of players are going to do is they are going to space this reasonably well. So they're going to do that. You might put out a medium punch or a jab. And your jab is often going to be delayed, and then they'll be able to whiff punish you on the back of it. Alright, this kind of thing. Let's see it again. I was a bit slow that time. Alright. This happens a lot going up, and when you start kind of not attacking into it, then they do the follow-ups, right? Okay, so that's kind of showing you that the jab is just like not what you want to be doing in this situation. Let's see this from Ryu's point of view. Wait, actually, so I turn that off. So look at the frame data, right? That's -11, so you can definitely get a heavy punch out. And Jamie's, if he continues it like that, it's a true block string. So you can't actually get your heavy punch out in the middle. So just don't be pressing jab. That's kind of the key thing. Let's have a look at it from Ryu's point of view. Alright, so I've got Jamie doing 2 recordings here. In the first one, he does the full sweep, and in the second one, just the first sweep, and then he tries to jab, okay? And just put them both on, and just try to get punish counters doing that. Without getting hit in between. And just practice that. It won't take you very long. You just want to sneak out a heavy punch there. And that heavy punch is only going to come out if Jamie doesn't continue his sweep. And if he does, then he continues it into the -15. Your button doesn't come out. And you get to hit him for the full heavy punish. Alright. I'm a bit far from him here. So if it's perfectly spaced, you can't even punish it. But it's pretty rare, especially in silver, that someone will perfectly space it. And then you could feasibly just beat it with sweep. But I get a bit greedy trying to do heavy punch punishes. Right? But you can always sweep it. You just need to practice the timing on it. Right? The main thing is not to jab in between these strings. Alright, let's go on to the next character. We are here with Blanka, and we can't go past Silver Blanka without talking about the heavy Blanka ball. This one. Does a whole bar of drive gauge damage on block. That is massive. That's the point of this move, is just to break down your drive gauge, and the most important thing is to parry it. You don't need to perfect parry it, just parry it, then it does no drive gauge damage. That's the main thing, okay? And after you parry it, don't throw a fireball under any circumstances, because while he's in the air, he can see that fireball coming, and then he'll slide on you, okay? So what I like to do against Blanka is just parry this, and then take up space, right? Push Blanka back. And Blankas will realize they can't do this all day if you're pushing back, and you push them back to here, right? Sometimes you can jump even if you think they're going to slide. But if you think they're going to slide, just walk forward and crouch block. Let them know that they can't slide. You know they're nonsense shenanigans. And if they do slide, then you're going to punish them massively. Now, as you get better, you do want to perfect parry this Blanka ball, but I find it super hard. You've got to parry very late. And then the most important thing is, even when you perfect parry it, which you'll see in a second, he still flies so far. Right, so you can't really do anything easy to him. I'll get it eventually. Right, so the Shoryuken misses. So what you actually have to do is drive rush immediately, which is pretty hard. Right, that ain't easy. That is not easy, I'll tell you what, right? So I would really leave that to like diamond. And note that like as you get better, the Blankas start doing more and more crazy stuff around it. So it's not just the ball, If you've got someone whose game is really based on just balling at you and then sliding, it's pretty easy to just parry, walk forward, crouch block, gradually take up space. When you see that they're not sliding, just like sneak some fireballs in there because that shuts down the Blanka ball anyway. Eventually you'll have them in the corner and you'll start dealing mad damage to them. As you get better, you want to try to get the perfect parry. But as I said, even if you get the perfect parry, you don't really turn around on them that much. Like Blanka ball is just a good button. Alright, on to the next character. Alright, we are up to Honda, and I want to talk about this button here that is very, very spammable. Right, Honda's medium punch. This is +1 on block. It's got massive range, very mashable. And you can actually just spam this button out. Like you watch Punk play Honda, and this is what he'll do. He'll just be spamming this out like crazy, kind of like Ken's heavy punch. Yeah? And the key thing with this is you just have to know your ranges. So when you're in close to Honda, a lot of these buttons aren't going to work, right? Because he pushes you away. Right there, it's going to work. The main thing to know about it is that it's 10 frames. So even with the +1, it's still a slow button. Right, but you've got to interrupt him effectively. Right, otherwise he can just mash it out all day at you. So the main thing is to know your distances. When you're in close, you use the light kick to check him. When you're a bit further away, the medium kick. And you can't hesitate. You've got to immediately press that medium kick if you want to stuff him, because your medium kick is a 9-frame button and his button is 10 frames and he's +1. So you've got to get it out around about the right time. If you get hit by it, like, it's not a big deal. He does 700 damage. Like, don't stress. So don't let him freak you out with it. Just be prepared with the spacings. Alright, that's all we need to do. Next character. Alright, it's time for Rashid. Now, Rashid's at the lower levels just really love to use his charged up whirlwind fireball move and then use it to either jump at you or scream across the screen with the whirlwind and just generally be a nuisance. And there's two things you want to know here. So the first one is that the horizontal whirlwind is highly susceptible to just jumping backwards, and you should probably just start with that. Oops, I was too slow. Fireball Oki. Alright, let's try it one more time. Right, so no problems there. The next thing to understand is that as he's charging up the fireball, he's kind of really locked into that now. You see that he's locked into that fireball. So just throw out your own OD fireball, right? Your own OD fireball is going to beat it. If he gets it really charged up, then you'll get this kind of situation where your fireball trades with his, but you're still going to push through it eventually. So it really shuts down most things. If he tries to jump at you afterwards, then you'll just be able to DP it. So this is just like really not very effective against Ryu. If you jump at him, you're going to have a bad time. But anything else that he's going to do, you're going to have no trouble at all. Right. So usually in the low grades, what I like to do is almost always they're going to do that horizontal thing at you first. So just jump back and punish that one time. If they keep doing it at you, then just keep punishing it. If they start to do something else, like trying to do the big overhead jump thing at you, then start throwing out OD fireballs and dragon punching that and just shut this down. Rashid is really, really good. He's arguably one of the top 5 characters in the game, but he's really, really hard to use, like one of the hardest characters. And to play him properly, you have to live in the danger zone. Like Rashid is all about being this close to your opponent, and no one in the low grades is going to play Rashid like that. They're all just going to use his shenanigans where they stay away from you and try to get in with those buttons that I just showed you. And once they're in, they're just going to do constant mix-ups on you. We'll talk about a bit more of that in gold. All right, next character. Alright, we are here with Dhalsim, and I'm going to show you one just like hilariously fake setup that a lot of Dhalsims like to use, and weirdly you see it even in like very high rank. I don't really know what's going on. It's this one. And that's all you got to do. Right, so when you see the Ogarch, just wait. But you can't wait too much because then the slide's going to beat you. And that's essentially the setup, right? Is that if you wait, then they'll recover from their slide in time to beat you. Right, but you can wait kind of long enough to see them go into the slide, but that's too late there, right? So really, as soon as you see the arch go up, look to see if they slide, and if they do, then just DI them, and that's it. And otherwise, just block. Like, it's really not that bad to block or whatever. Like, you're in a strike throw mix-up, but it's not so bad. You can also do that. It beats it fine. So it's just like not a very good setup, and a lot of Dhalsims like to use it all the time. Alright, we are here with the Foot Clan's favourite lady, Juri. And Juri players even by Silver 5 might be doing the following drive rush pressure string because it's just so fundamental to Juri's game. I don't imagine that there's a lot of drive rushing down in Silver, but with Juri's, I suspect you will see this because this is like what Juri's all about. Medium punch, crouch, medium punch, medium fuha store. Really good sequence. It's a frame trap the whole way through. If at any point you're trying to like press a button, she'll just beat you out of it, even a jab. But certainly anything slower than a jab. It takes off an entire drive gauge of damage from you, slightly more even, and while she spends 1 to drive rush, she then builds back most of that gauge. So it's just like really in her favor. She's got strike throw mix the whole way through as well. So you've got to be really on the ball while you're defending against this, but mostly you should just block. Because remember that all these mediums push you away quite a lot, so there is space for you to jab in if you see her moving, right? But wait to see her stop first. So how can we defend ourselves against this string? The first thing is just to use parry, right? The first 2 hits are a true block string. You can't do anything once you block the first one. Just try mashing, nothing happens. It's a true block string. Checking the drive rush is really good, but we'll leave that for kind of diamond. It's pretty hard because Juri's drive rush is so fast that checking it with the crouch medium punch is tough. And when you start doing that, they'll start using medium kick as their entry point, which stuffs your medium punch, so it's all a bit complicated. The other thing to do though is just after the first 2 hits, just parry there, right? And then she at least doesn't get the drive gauge damage. Parrying at the start is less advisable because she can just throw you. But parrying after those first 2 hits when you're kind of out of throw range, that just kind of neutralizes a lot of the effectiveness of this sequence. And if you want, you can try to go for a perfect parry. Let me see if I get it. Alright, in order to get the perfect parry, you have to parry her in the last 2 frames before she hits you. So you've got to parry really late. It's quite a high risk, high reward strategy because if you do it too late, you'll just get hit and you'll eat the fuha kick as well. But obviously if you perfect parry her, then you get the heavy hashogeki punish, you get some corner carry, you get some damage. Your damage is heavily scaled because you're perfect parrying, but it's still a really nice turnaround in the momentum of the match. So it's quite good, but the main thing with the parries is just to stop her from destroying all your drive gauge. The other thing to note about this sequence is that when you're blocking crouched, you become fatter. Your hurt box is wider, and so the fuha stock kick at the end of her pressure sequence will hit you. Whereas if you're standing, it won't hit you. So after the first 2 hits, if you stand block and hold backwards, then the fuha kick will whiff at the end and you can punish it. Let's have a look. Alright, see, it's whiff punish. Right, that was not a whiff punish. I was too late. But there I did get the punish counter. Right. We are now talking about Kimberley. I remember before we talked about this move from Kimberley. Alright, all you need to do to stop this move, any variation of it, is to jab. Don't try to like protect yourself against a cross up. Just jab, and you can even get a nice little Shoryuken off afterwards, get some damage, and then follow up with your Oki. Right? The problem is that this move looks very similar to this move. Right? And if she runs backwards like that, obviously you're not under pressure, so that's fine. If you see her run back, you can even throw out a fireball or walk forward and just hit her with the crouch medium kick just to check her. You're +6 after you block that one. So you can generally work it out. But if you're always passive, then what's she going to do? She's going to hit you with that one, right? So how do you react to that? The key thing is you want to DP it. But if you DP when she's just back rolling on you, then you're going to whiff into space and she's going to deal huge damage to you. So what you want to do is put these both on. It doesn't matter if you've got her throwing you or kicking you, because you're going to be DPing. The key thing is to have one where she does the flip kick and then either follows it up with a kick or the throw, and one where she just rolls backwards on you. And now what you want to do is practice buffering the DP. So put the directional inputs in, but only hit the punch if you see her doing something in the air. It's a tight window, but you get used to the visual of it. Right, so I'm too slow there. It's pretty quick. It's pretty quick. Right. You want to use the light DP? Oosh, too slow. Right. So I'm really bad at this, obviously. Oosh. Right. I've also had a few beers, but still, I've obviously got to practice. So anyway, you got to practice this, right? I think it's quite important. And once you're good with it, then also put in the usual run kick so you can tell the difference. Right. Just practice both. There, I got it that time. Alright, so yeah, got to practice that, and it's pretty hard against the Kim, but I think that's one of her best entry points, especially when she does the EX throw, because that bounces you, and then she can get a big combo with a lot of corner carry on it. So you really need to be able to shut that down. Next character. Alright, we are here with Cammy, and basically what you need at this level to beat Cammy is a delay tech. Alright, let's look at the core of Cammy's game plan. It's the spiral arrow. And then she's going to get you with either that strike or that throw. Right? That's basically what Cammy's about. I really don't think that anyone down here in Silver is going to have a sophisticated shimmy game. So the shimmy is this. Right? That sort of thing. Okay? A sophisticated shimmy game is even more than that. It involves like delayed throw when you're close to someone. It involves using heaps of techs, heaps of tick throws, the double shimmy like this, all sorts of fancy stuff. But the main thing is to have the 3 layers: strike, throw, and shimmy. If your opponent doesn't have a shimmy, then all you need is delay tech. Let's have a look. So I've got here, if I have Ryu doing nothing in particular, then he's going to wake up blocking. And then I'll still be able to hit him with the tick throws and stuff like that. But especially I'll just be able to throw him, right? Now taking the throw against Cammy is no big deal, right? You take 1200 damage, you can take 10 throws before you die. And as long as you back roll after the throw, as Ryu did here, she can't keep throwing you in the mid-screen, right? So generally speaking, take the throw and back rise and reset the situation, right? Most Cammys have bad neutral. at the low level, even though her neutral is so good, especially this button. Oh my god, this is like such a godlike button. Look at the range on this thing, 7 frames, my god. Anyway, so even though they have mad neutral, they don't really use it. They just hang around back here and they try to spin knuckle you. And then once they get a knockdown, then you're in the blender and they start getting at you. But generally speaking, you just want to take the throw, but even better, you want to tick throw. You want to delay tech initially and see whether they have the shimmy. And if they don't, you've basically won. Like, they just won't be able to open you up ever. So let's put Ryu on delay tech. So I'm going to have him doing an 8-frame delay here. And let's start with the punch. Oh, he's blocked it, and I'm too far away from him to throw here in that situation. What if I throw him? He's teched it. Right, and look how far away we are. We're back into the neutral. Best case scenario, I've got that, but there, you know, you've got to be ready to drive impact against the spin knuckle, and that's it. Alright, and this time round, our lucky last is Marisa. And Marisa's a bit complicated, but so once you've got the game plan for her, it sort of stays the same all the way through into master rank. It just gets more complicated in layers. And the basic idea with Marisa is that you do have to play some neutral, but she is mostly going to have longer range buttons than you, so you've got to be careful. But she's also not especially mobile, like she's quite slow, and she'll just be putting out really big buttons all the time. So besides just occasionally drive rushing in, like we talked about with Manon and Zangief, and trying to put some pressure on her, and besides not letting her intimidate you with Superman Punch and making sure that you do throw fireballs, because her jump sucks, so it's pretty easy for you to uppercut her out of the sky. The other thing that you really need to be trying to do with Marisa is some whiff punishes, right? And particularly heavy punch into hashogeki off this sort of button. Let's have a look. So if you know your ranges on that button, then you won't get hit by it, and you'll be able to do the whiff punch. Oh, and that's huge. If you take that away from Marisa, you got to press that punch at the right time. Like, you got to see the flash and then hit it. If you press it too soon, she's obviously going to wreck you. And if you press it too late, you won't get the whiff punish. You can also just use sweep. That might be easier at this stage, really. Let's just do that. I was too close. Alright, so just tempt her into doing it, and then back out. Right, now obviously this is the charged one, so you want to practice against uncharged gladius as well. But just really know the gladius range and punish her for it, alright? And then also really know Superman Punch. Now, EX Superman Punch, I can't react to. It's a little bit too quick. But normal Superman Punch, I think you can learn to put the DP out. Alright, and if you can shut this down, then that really complements your fireball uppercut game. So you can put both of those on and just practice. Practice either whiff punishing or DPing, depending on which one she does. Right? And I think that's a pretty easy drill. And then if you want to make it a bit more complicated, then just have her move around. And if you take these tools away from Marisa, then she becomes so much worse, honestly. Like, if Marissa's scared to do this kind of stuff against you, you can use OD fireballs a lot as well. If Marissa's scared to do this sort of stuff against you, then the matchup becomes just tremendously easier. Alright, so I would really just practice that drill, specifically against those two moves, the gladius and the Superman Punch. Just working on punishing the gladius with a sweep and knocking the Superman Punch out of the sky. And then you can really start to establish your fireball game. Alright, I think that does us. Man, these videos take me so long, these number 5 videos where I go through everyone. But I remember I learn a lot of stuff even while I'm making them. So hopefully it's been informative for you, and I'll see you in Gold 1. Exciting.